Welcome back. It's the Hoops Outsiders podcast. Thank you. I appreciate the love. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm VT. You can follow me on Twitter at Temple of Hoops and Instagram, Temple of Hoops TV. You can check out the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. It's everywhere. Go ahead and subscribe to the Hoops Outsiders podcast so you won't miss a new episode when it is available. Man, today is a special day, and I'm excited, guys, because you know what I got in studio with me, college basketball expert on everything college, Deshaun Tate. Tell them where they can find you at, Tate.
Man, what up, though, VT? Catch me on the IG, social media platforms, as well as Facebook, all that good stuff. Twitter, at Tate's Take Hoops, TATESTAKE Hoops. Got a small little podcast, maybe not as big as this one, but got a little something small going on as well. That is also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts as well, entitled Tate's Take, man. So that's what we're doing right now. Appreciate you for having me in, bro.
Hey, anytime, man. I love to have someone as knowledgeable as yourself to talk about college basketball. And I wanted to bring you in today because with everything that's been going on in college basketball and the FBI investigation that has led to a lot of corruption with the shoe companies, possibly funneling money to athletes and to coaches to get players to go to their program. It's better to just start with Georgia Tech right here in our background. With the recent news with Georgia Tech being handed probation for allegedly offering improper benefits to their players and in their program. And so I just wanted to just start off with the Georgia Tech men's basketball team infractions punishment that was handed down recently. Do you see this the end of the road for Josh Pastner? And just what do you see about this latest news and events that has taken place?
Well, I think that first and foremost with the way that the buyout, I'm not sure if the buyout is really a realistic option for Georgia Tech at this point in terms of Josh Pastner. Now, with that being said, some people might consider the fact that it might be best that they went ahead and kind of took their lumps or took their troubles or errors or whatever like right now before they get to a point where they become much better. Now, I'm not sure that the foreseeable future will hold anything bright for Georgia Tech, remotely close anytime soon rather. But this is a guy in Josh Pastner that they brought in as a coach. They said, we're not really sure how good of a coach he'll be, but we are sure that he is a much, much better than average recruiter, a great recruiter, in fact. Now, some people are going to feel their own little ways about that, indeed. I'm one of those people. However, I will say enough to say that.
And don't want to cut y'all real quick, but in the last 3 seasons, his recruiting classes have ranked 14th, 18th, and 12th in the ACC. So, I mean.
What was those numbers?
14th, 8th, and 12th in the ACC as far as recruiting classes. So
right.
That recruiting hadn't panned out to be one of the reasons they may have brought him to.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not doing very well in recruiting in general. You know what I'm saying? When you talk, I mean, you said 12th, 8th, and 14th. Yep. There's only, 15 teams in the league. So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, a lot of people feel, that it's bringing him in, he's going to do such a great job recruiting. Well, just to inform you what Memphis was before him. Now, granted, just to be fair, that was Coach Calipari's team, where Josh Pastner was an assistant. A lot of people say, he had such a big influence on bringing in Derrick Rose. That's great, but there is no history of showing how great of a recruiter he is as a head coach. Memphis was good before him. Memphis also had the number 1 recruiting class in the country before he came in. That was under Coach Calipari. Now that he's gone, you have a second-year head coach in Penny Hardaway, who is only in his second year, and they have the number 1 recruiting class this upcoming year. So it just kind of goes to show that he hasn't done such a great job at Georgia Tech. His best recruit that he's had is Jose Alvarado, right now an upcoming junior on this team, and he's a 3-star. So he hasn't necessarily done a significant job. We're talking about this is the middle of Atlanta. Like, this is Atlanta. I don't know very many kids, when you're thinking about nightlife and you're thinking about music and you're thinking about entertainment and all these other things, what kid would not want to come to Atlanta? If Paul Hewitt could do it, of all people. I mean, people might say, well, he was able to coach Josh Okogie, who was a first-round pick, but that wasn't his recruit. That was Brian Gregory's recruit, for as much crap Brian Gregory gets. So we can sit here and go all day long, VT, but at the end of the day, I think, we could realistically see him being on his way out. A coach that I would have liked to come in and see replace him would have been a Shaka Smart, because I'm not really sure that the University of Texas, with all the money he's making and all the money that university has with their own network, that he is necessarily that they're really extremely happy with him. But he's hanging on from the thread of pretty much like a spider's web, if you will, based on the simple fact that it's really a football program. So, the basketball program takes a little bit of a dip, or they're kind of looked past in regards to football. But I just thought that he would be an ideal person to come in and replace Josh Pastner. And right now, based off of these allegations, that's not something that I think that we can look forward to.
And you mentioned something earlier about his buyout. After that stellar first season he had, when he won 21 games, he went, I think it was
8-8.
It was 10-8 in the ACC.
10-8.
And he finished as runner-up NIT tournament.
NIT, right?
Yeah, NIT.
Okay, I just want to make sure we go ahead and put the key word NIT, key letters NIT in there.
That's right. He was given an extension. Originally he signed a 6-year contract, right?
Sure.
So he was given an extension, and with that extension, it reset his buyout. He would have received, say, athletic director Todd Stansberry said if he would have fired him, he would have got only 75% of that salary for this coming season, which would have been around $4.2 million. But because he got that 7-year extension, it reset it, so he would get 100% of that salary.
Wow. Yeah, and when you're sitting back looking at this, I mean, think about what has happened with this. Like, basically, long story short, Josh Pastner has pretty much gotten caught with cheating without reaping any kind of benefits from it. Now, if you ask Josh Pastner, he's going to be the guy that says, well, this is and this is a conversation that I heard that he told me, okay, well, we're going to have the best backcourt in the country next season. Now, that's not for this upcoming season, but for the following season, where Jose Alvarado, who's right now an incoming junior, would be an incoming senior, between him and Michael DeVoe. I'm not sure that there's anybody that's going to necessarily believe that. Like, you need more people to believe this. Like, you have North Carolina, you have Virginia, who necessarily doesn't, recruit very well, but they recruit well within themselves in the system that they do, and they're a national champion, defending national champion right now. By the way, let me not also forget to mention Duke. I'm not even sure if Georgia Tech can recruit better than some of the worst teams in the conference right now, being Pitt, Boston College, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, the bottom of the ACC. Now, he might also be the person to go and say, it came down to Georgia Tech and a lot of these guys who decided to 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits even, decided to go on from choose between Georgia Tech and another program. And it just so happens to be that other program was a blue blood program. Perfect example. Saying that it came down to Georgia Tech and Nasir Little. I'm sorry, Georgia Tech and North Carolina for Nasir Little. Well, obviously, most people, it doesn't take an Ivy League degree to know that anybody's going to choose North Carolina over Georgia Tech. But I'm not believing him. Speaking of Ivy League, how about the fact that they were going after Wendell Carter, right here from Atlanta, Pace Academy, hometown kid, can't keep the kids right here in at home in your own backyard. Now, his last 4 choices was between Georgia Tech, that's to be fair.
And that's even after showing him some assets.
Oh, for sure. That's what I'm talking. All these guys is after the fact.
Yeah. All
these guys is after showing assets. You have Georgia Tech for Wendell Carter. Mm-hmm. You have Duke. Mm-hmm. You have UGA. Mm-hmm. And you have Harvard of all the teams, speaking of Ivy Leagues. Of course, anybody will tell you that Duke is going to be the team. That was the same case for Alex O'Connell, who ultimately ended up going to Duke from right up the road at Milton High School. That was also the case for Anthony Edwards, who's now at UGA, a prized, prime-time, 5-star recruit, likely going to be number 1 pick in the NBA draft, maybe even the top 3. And I don't mean to get too long-winded, but I want to make sure that people understand what we're really talking about right now. We're talking about Georgia Tech. He is a guy that was trying to keep guys at home. Anthony Edwards was a part of many summer camps, multiple summer camps at Georgia Tech. Told me himself in an interview that Georgia was not even on his radar. He was not even considering Georgia. Ended up going to Georgia, not Georgia Tech. He went to the traditional football program of this state, not the basketball program. That just goes to show the lack of respect rather that people have and considering Georgia Tech.
And just getting back to Wendell Carter was at the core of this NCAA violation that Tech got, which led to
strip clubs.
Yeah, which led to assistant coach Darryl Laberry.
Script clubs, excuse me. Script. I know how y'all do it in the South. Y'all say script clubs. Script clubs, Pink Pony, Magic City, Blue Flag.
Hey man, you gotta get off the South, man. But Wendell Carter, he was in the center of this whole thing that led to Tech pretty much putting their former assistant coach Darryl Laberry away from the program, even though he denied that and I guess in accordance with former Tech standout Jared Jack going to the strip club, not knowing that money was given to Wendell Carter to be used. And like I said, that led also to Jared Jack also being put away from the program in some regards, or any type of affiliation as a booster or whatever the case may be. But it's I think it's pertinent to go ahead and just talk about what Tech did receive as far as any punishment handed down by the NCAA. They received a postseason ban, which will end Tech season after March 6th regular season game at Clemson. There will be no ACC tournament, a 4-year probation, and a loss of 1 scholarship each year. Significant recruiting restrictions for the length of the probation. That means 8 weeks. Prospects cannot make unofficial visits to Tech, and coaches can't contact recruits. Tech also loses 3 official visits, $5,000 fine plus 2% of the team's budget, and this is the thing that I'm waiting for right here. Current team members can transfer and play immediately at new schools. Now, if you are an athlete right now for Tech, things look very murky right now. I would get out. I would be gone. I mean, if I'm Jose Alvarado, we talked about James Bank III. I think that's his name, right?
Who's already a transfer from Texas, only played 1 year after sitting out.
Michael DeVoe, you telling me if I'm these guys, I would transfer him. I mean, what do you think about that? Would you be transferred or would you stay?
Well, this is the thing. If this is really all about the fact that they're not going to get the opportunity to participate in the NCAA tournament game, they weren't going to be participating in the NCAA tournament game anyway. And I got the good feeling that they know. Now, they can go and tell you whatever they want. But we all know, looking at Georgia Tech, based on Georgia Tech, a team that ain't did nothing since they made a run, again, not to the national championship game of the NCAA tournament, but the national championship game of the NIT, the non-invitational, the non-invited tournament. That the skies hasn't necessarily looked very blue for them. Now, for somebody, maybe not for a Banks, maybe not for a DeVoe, maybe not for Alvarado, maybe not for those guys, but for somebody, another one of those guys, Jordan Usher, who is a transfer from USC, is going to be eligible this year. He's a product out of Wheeler who's really, really good. I really like him. But for somebody's going to have to play on this team, and somebody's going to have to shine bright. So it might not really be necessarily a bad idea for somebody to stay and say, I'm going to make the best out of this situation, and I'm going to play on the highest level that I possibly can. And when it's time to go to Durham at Cameron Indoor Stadium, when it's time to go to Chapel Hill against North Carolina at the Dean Dome, when it's time to go to, Louisville and play at the KFC Yum Center, or against Syracuse at their, Carrier Dome, or whatever the case may be, I think that is the time to be able to say, you know what, we're not going to play in the tournament. I didn't expect that we would, but I'm going to shine bright in those moments because I know that there's going to be NBA scouts there. and essentially you'll be pretty much in a very similar situation as like a Josh Okogie.
I couldn't do it, man. I'm just being honest with you, Tate.
Just because you know you're not going to the tournament?
Yes.
But you knew you weren't going to the tournament when you got there.
That's true. Of course, you knew they wasn't going to go to they wasn't going to make the NCAA tournament this year.
Sure.
But just for the simple fact, I don't think I would have to go, man.